We have come far from the aircraft's beginnings. They have taken us a great distance. They have helped us eliminate our enemy from the air. They have mapped out the planet that we call home. They have brought us closer together. And now, a complete history of possibly the most important innovation in our world. It didn't start in 1903 when the Wright brothers took flight, not with the invention of the hot air balloon in 1783, but when Leonardo da Vinci designed the first aircraft in the late 1400s. One would slip into the harness and run down a hill at full speed and then jump off a short cliff, about 10 feet high. It never took flight. He never even built it. Whether it would have flown or not is unknown, but the idea of flight was in advanced thought. Aerodynamics work on this principle. The faster a gas is moving, the less dense it becomes. The underside of a wing is flat, while the top of the wing is curved. This is called an airfoil. The air above the wing must move faster than the air under the wing because it has to travel a greater distance in the same amount of time. As air moves, more air must take its place. This causes the plane to be literally sucked upward. This is lift. Orville Wright was born August 19, 1871. Wilbur, Orville's bigger brother, was born April 16, 1867. They both agreed on one thing: flight. According to WrightHouse.com, the interest they took in this subject was sparked in 1878 when their father came home with a rubber band toy helicopter. They immediately started designing flying machines, but failed to sustain flight. A few years later, they had shrugged off the idea of flight. Then they realized that sustained flight might be more than just a fantasy. They had read about the death of Otto Lenthinel, who had designed many successful gliders. They had an idea. In 1900, they came out with a plane that they thought might fly, but they failed. After a few minute changes to the design, they finally took off in 1903 for 12 seconds. In 1905, after some more major changes, they flew for 30 minutes. After that, they signed a contract for them to build planes for the U.S. Army and Europe. Soon after the first successful flight, the world saw how useful the aircraft was. The U.S. military were the first to put this metal bird to use. According to Geocities.com, after World War I, the government had a surplus of planes. The planes were converted to civilian use. This included a variety of uses. One of these uses is commercial airlines. People needed a faster way to travel, and the airplane delivered. By 1917, Europe had over 17 airlines functioning. And by 1919, bombers were converted to 20 more small airlines. The industry was growing rapidly. Another great use was airmail. Before airmail, people had to wait days before their mail got from New York to California. With the invention of airmail, time was decreased by over 80%. By 1939, the planes were getting more popular and advanced. The Boeing 247 and the DC-3 were some of the most advanced aircraft of the time, but they had a big drawback: non-pressurized cabins. They could not fly above 10,000 feet. If and when they did, people began to faint and even pass out because of reduced oxygen levels. This caused many problems. Pilots had to fly around the Sierra Nevada mountains, and they were just at the right height to get caught in potentially life-threatening storms. So along came a new invention: pressurized cabins. A version of the B-17 bomber was introduced in 1940, among the first aircraft to fly above 10,000 feet for long periods of time. World War II had an enormous impact on planes, and planes had an enormous impact on the war. At the beginning of the war, there were fewer than 300 air transports. At the end, over 40 U.S. manufacturers were producing over 5,000 aircraft every year. At the end of the war, the United States had built over 30,000 aircraft. Isaac Newton's third law states that for any force applied to an object, there is an equal and opposite reaction, otherwise that object will move. Therefore, a rearward channeled explosion could propel a machine at high speeds. However, no one could apply this concept until about 1930. According to Geocities.com, Frank Whittle, a British pilot, designed the first jet engine. Even then, there was much skepticism about it. This caused Whittle's design not to be tested for a few more years. The Germans were the first to build and fly jet aircraft in 1939, although it had not flown as well as they had hoped. It took 5 more years to perfect the device, but by then it was too late to affect the outcome of the war. But Whittle had shipped his idea to General Electric in the United States, and the first prototype was built the following year. Aviation was poised to once again grow rapidly, but still faced huge problems. Funding. According to Assortment.com, the Cold War between the US and the USSR was important enough that it had provided sufficient funding to complete the jet project. A few years later, the first wide-body commercial jet was released, the Boeing 747. The 747 had 2 aisles with 10 seats per row and had a capacity of about 350 people, depending on configuration. It also had an upper deck. It was 80% larger than the previously largest aircraft, the DC-8. Today, there are hundreds of aircraft cruising the blue sky as I speak, and the Air Force has over 4,000 aircraft currently in use. These aircraft affect us every day, and more than in our atmosphere. In the exosphere, satellites map out our blue-green Earth and give us information about weather and much more. The F-15, the F-18, and the F-22 are the most agile and fast machines on our planet, with speeds over Mach 2.5. That's over twice the speed of sound. All of these reasons are why aircraft are the ultimate innovation.